Thank you, Justin. Yeah, like he just said, we're gonna look at some ECDA pre-assessment and then setting up a CI survey using FDC. So the pre-assessment, there's a couple of documents out there, NACE documents, now AMP, of course, but they're still called the NACE SPO 207. It considers ECDA. It's a four-step process, and part of it's that pre-assessment. And the pre-assessment is just getting to know your pipe, getting to know what you're getting into once you get out there in the field. Um, Indirect inspections include a native or a deep hole, CI, DCVG, ACVG. Direct examinations, digging, and then post-assessment. And part of the stuff that they call out for their structure and conditions in this particular document, I'm not going to read through all of these, but you can read through these at your leisure. But there's a couple of things that, it's, if you look at them, it's getting to know your pipe. Everything, where are your test points? What product is going through there? That actually makes a difference. What's the pipe diameter, wall thickness, any type of crossings, paved areas, what's your depth of cover, coding information. If you have any pipeline maps, that's really helpful to see, okay, does this pipe, are there PIs in this pipe, or, does this thing float over to the other side of the right of way? Any type of historical data is nice to have with any of this. And as far as the operating data, this one calls out, like a test station survey. Do you have a test station survey that you can look at? What's your current source? This is pretty important to know exactly what your CP system is. What's the type? Output, where are things located on it? Need to know what bonds do you have out there, if you have any bonds. What the identifications, what the types are. Do you have any electrical isolations? How many stations are on this pipe that you may be isolating your CP system from that station? Stray current. Is there any known stray current out there? Anything in the past that you have seen, particularly AC? Is this right away in an HVAC line? AC mitigation is such a huge topic right now. More and more of these lines are getting shared with the power line right-of-ways. And then some other kind of miscellaneous things, emergency operating maps, ingress, egress of right-of-ways, landowner issues. Well, there's one to make sure you're on top of. It's nice to get to know the landowners on these, so you're not facing the wrong end of a little dangerous stick, which has happened. Historical data, again, do you have any other survey data that you can look at, and any type of previous integrity assessments? And then SPO 502 calls out a lot of the same things, but it kind of groups them together. Pipe data, what's your coding? That's important. What's the size? What's the age of this pipe? What's your soil condition? So your soil resistivity, maybe your pH. What's the depth of cover on this pipe? That affects those surveys so much. Again, the CP system. Do you have rectifiers out there? If you do, what type of ground beds are there? Where they're located? Or is this a galvanic anode system? Which, if you're going to do CI and you're going to try and do interrupted, that causes other issues that you're going to have to take care of. It causes a lot of issues if you're trying to do DCVG, especially if you don't know where those galvanic anodes are. To DCVG, that's just a big holiday. The operational data, construction history, has there been some new pipe put in the ground in this right of way for this one? And again, historical data. So as far as the field computer goes and the equipment, what are we going to need to do to pre-assess what we're going to use for this survey? We have flagged and fixed increment. And if you're doing fixed increment, what's the increment? I'll talk about that a little bit later on. Is this going to be an on survey? Is it going to be a native or a dipole? Are you going to do interrupted? So those are questions that you're going to have to ask. If it's interrupted, what cycle do you want it at? What cycle are other people interrupting around you, other operators or other line owners, to make sure you're all in sync? Is this going to be an AC or a DC survey? We can do both. Once you start one, you can't switch over to the other, but you can do an AC survey or a DC survey. Again, AC mitigation out there. I'll show you some examples in the waveforms coming up that causes havoc with interruption. Sub-meter GPS. Are they requesting sub-meter GPS with this survey? Then you'll have to have an external GPS to run on it. Our GPS in the DVM and in the AX are standard grade 2 to 5 meter. What type of notes are they going to want to have? Pipe exposures, line markers are pretty typical. PIs, depth of cover, and that remarks list is customized, and we'll talk about that also as well. Do you have the right equipment set up? Now, this is a pre-assessment, again, that will save you a lot of time and money. Going through your equipment just to make sure everything is ready to go before you get out in the field. That reference cell, do you have the correct type? Is it cleaned? Is it charged? Is your DVM calibrated? Is your field computer fully charged? Is your DVM fully charged? These are things that you want to make sure that you get done ahead of time. Your wire and cabling, it's always a good idea to kind of check those out. Just check them for continuity, make sure there's no frays or anything on them. Do you have any spares? A few spare cables is a good idea.
Hey, Lon,
Yes.
we have a comment here on the chat. What depth would you say is the limit for obtaining accurate survey data?
Well, I hate to give the old NACE class answer, but it depends because it does. A lot of that depends on your soil resistivity, high resistivity soil and depth of cover. If you are collecting your data and you know what those are, what your soil resistivity is, what your depth of cover, you can look at that, assess that data afterwards and go, yeah, I can see my depth of cover is 8 feet, which is pretty good. In high resistivity soils, I'm not going to get as much. Your CP system, it kind of depends on your CP system as well. How many amps are your rectifiers having to put out to keep that pipe protected? So, I mean, I hate to say it, but it really does depend on a lot of different factors, but it does affect it, particularly in DCVG, by the way. So the latest software, if you are in your FDC app and you go over to the settings and the about, you can look for your latest software. Our latest version out right now is 1.17. We will be coming out with a 2.0 later on this year. This will also give you your DVM information, serial number, calibration date. As you see, mine is overdue for calibration. When you last authenticated, so when you opened up FDC with with Wi-Fi? When was that last time, and when does that token expire? So I always try and hammer this home is the first thing you do once you're set up and you're ready to get out there and do your survey is if you're going to do an interrupted survey, you have got to go to your DVM first and check your waveform. I can't stress that enough. You're going to hook up to your pipe and you're going to make sure that you are in sync with all of your interrupters. You are going to adjust your settings, your on setup and off delay, to make sure that they are crossing that waveform line to give you a good on and off reading. Right now, you see we've got 1152 and 926 for our ons and our offs. And you're going to make sure that this cycle begins with is correct. Now, all this is just has to match your interrupters. So if you see something like this, where everything is shifted over by 1 second, so now this off is not in the white portion, the off portion of the cycle, most likely it is that cycle begins with. If you just shift that, it will line up. That's probably 85 to 90%. If you see that shifted like that, we'll fix that issue. So what are we going to look at in these waveforms? Well, here's some examples. AC mitigation, you're going to see that capacitive discharge and recharge. There's really not a lot you can do about that. That's done. The PCRs are what's causing that. Dairyland does have a PCRX that is out that mitigates this. If you have zinc ribbon with your AC mitigation, it really makes it worse. And then up in the upper right, we have some interference. You see there's some stair stepping here. There's another interrupter that's out of sync with the rest of yours, most likely here. So you're getting something out of sync, so you can't get a true, in this case, you're not getting a real on reading. Something like this where the waveform meanders, this is a DC transit system. You'll see these. I saw the worst one just outside of Atlanta. It just meandered all over the place and you can't really get anything. So let's look at some settings for CI, your initial setup. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to highlight some of the important ones. In this, enable 1 reading per cycle. This was just added in fairly recently. If you have tellurics out there, mainly way up north, you're going to get them a lot worse. This will allow you to take 1 reading per cycle. If you're doing a 3 on, 1 off, you only get 1 reading in that 4 seconds. It'll only allow you to take 1 reading. That way it can line up with the telluric compensation. Skip mode, I'll go over that one. File autosave, I want to hit on this. Turn this on so that every so often the survey that you're running gets autosaved. So you don't have to worry about hitting that save. Very important feature. And I'll mention this later on, but save the survey first for this to take hold.
Hey, Lon, can you give a little bit of, in that previous slide, just a little bit of context, explain skip mode a little bit? One of the questions was if skip mode is keeping something like a moving average of the reading. William?
Yes, so I can. If you are in skip mode, it depends on if you're using fixed increment or flag mode. So if you're using fixed increment, you're still going to walk across that area that you can't survey, and so you'll have all your stationing and then you'll pick it up again. If you are doing flag mode, you'll come up to the edge of where you can't survey a road or whatever it is. You'll put in a gap in that case, and then you go across and put in another gap. And what that's going to do is it's going to rubber band from that gap back to your last flag, and then your end gap to your next flag. So you'll still have, in a case of a 100-foot flag, you'll still have that 100 feet. So yeah, it'll keep all that stationing. All this does is just, do you want to show that in your survey, each of those stations, or do you just want to skip from your start to the end of your skip and with no data in there? Remarks. I talked about this, customizing your remarks. It's easy to do. It's in the settings at the very bottom. And you can come in here and you can edit these. So if you have specific ones that you know you're going to be doing a lot of, you can just select this and edit it and put it up there at the top. So when you are adding your remarks, in this case, you could just put 01 and it's going to put in highway. You don't have to type it all out. But all of this is customizable as well. So let's look at setting up a new survey. So we're going to start a brand new survey. First thing we're going to do is we're going to fill in the segment. Now, the segment and pipe, if you are going to bring this into PCS, it really needs to match the what you have in PCS, so it knows where to put it, which right away in PCS to put this. If you don't, it'll bring it in as a new unknown section. So make sure that those match if you can. As we go down again, AC or DC, once you start one, you can't switch over. If I started DC, I can't switch over and do some AC. It has to be one or the other. Ascending, descending, I can start at this and go downstream, or I can start upstream and come back, whichever. Just be aware that it does not go past 0. I've seen people start surveys and they're in descending and they're starting at 0 and it's not going to go anywhere because it's not going to go negative. Flagged and fixed, I'll talk about here on the next couple of slides, and we can do metric as well. So fixed increment, this is going to use the wire spooler, the chainer, as we call it, to trigger your reads. And so these increments have to be every 2.5 feet. There's a wheel with a micro switch on there, and every 20 rotations is 2.5 feet. And so it triggers those reads. So it has to be 2.5 feet, 5 feet, 7.5 feet, increments of 2.5 feet. If you're doing flag mode, you're going to set your flag distance, in this case, 100. So I'm going to have a flag. I'm going to take my readings, and as I go along, it's going to increment by 1. And then once I hit the flag, it's going to count how many readings I have between the flags. If I have 40 readings, it's going to rubber band all that stationing to 2.5 feet. If I have 20 readings, it's going to rubber band it all to 5 foot. So it's kind of automatic. And you can monitor those flags, so it'll warn you if you go past one that says, hey, you know what? I was expecting one. I think you missed it here. And you can double check and back up and put your flag in. Again, in the settings, we also have getting this set up so that you make sure that your settings are correct. It needs to match whatever was good in your DVM when you checked it. Those just need to match here. So you know you're getting true good on and off readings. You're out, your off delay is out of any noise, any ringing, any anodic spikes, anything like that. That's the one you will adjust the most, is that off delay. And then we'll save the file. So you want to make sure you save this file ahead of time. It's going to come up as soon as you're finished with the properties. It's going to come up and give you this. So once you save that, then it'll allow that auto save feature to, as you're going along, every whatever you set that to, every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes, it's going to go ahead and auto save, and you'll be safe with your data. Any questions on that? Anything that's come up? Okay, some of the things that we're really starting to get ramped up on is our product training. So I want to talk about that just briefly. We have a couple of types of PCS training. We have admin, and then we have intermediate or user training. We have survey manager training. We have the FDC, field data collector training. We also will provide bullhorn training as well. We have a QR code here. If you want to scan that, you can go to our training options. I see Sarah scanning it to test it. I hope it works. If not, we'll blame Matt. And then this is a little feedback. If you want to take this survey and give us some feedback, please feel free to do so. And we'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have in the future. So please let us know. And with that, if there are not any more questions.
We just had a question come in asking if there's a training on periodic survey.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, in the module that we just dropped in the chat, it does have a brief overview of the periodic survey along with a few other options. So feel free to click on that and run through it.
And for the questions that are coming out, so I mean, anything that's related to our products, PCS, CPDM, annual periodic test points, rectifiers, bonds, anode tanks, using our hand data collectors, using our soil resistivity, any product and any associated use of those products, we can definitely come together with any type of custom training. There's a tremendous amount of online content as well of how to do things. And at the end of the day, we can also come on site with you guys. We can do things virtually. We've gone through so many different iterations of this, but for, you know, nearly 40 years of our history, we've always provided training. So anything anybody needs, just reach out to your salesperson or reach out to, you know, support@alworldwide.com. Or any of the inquiries, and we'll help you build a training that's very custom to you or something that's a little bit more broad. So obviously always happy to help support this. This is something that we feel very confident that we can answer questions and get you guys in the field effectively. And Steve, you can see here, there's a bunch of different feedback loops. If you could, Christiane, could you also put in customer service and sales and a couple of other links? So any of these numbers, any of these websites, it all comes back to all of our teams. So just reach out to any of these different contact points, and then we'll get you in touch with anyone you need to help build a custom agenda, get some more information. Happy to help support.